All right, so I'm sitting here drawing some figures at the moment, and I thought I made a video. I thought I'd make a video about it. I love drawing figures. I feel like I've been doing it for a while now, and I understand the construction process. And although I am not an incredible teacher of said process, I really enjoy doing it. So I'm just going to find me a reference. I literally just looked up figure poses on Pinterest, and I'm basically gonna do some quick sketches, right? Where I'm just gonna be kind of building up a couple, like maybe 1 minute gestures, and then I might select a couple to go deeper in and, maybe draw some more construction, maybe draw a little bit more muscles, whatnot, the good stuff, right? So I saw a figure up here that I thought was interesting. So I think we're gonna use that. Let's see where she is, right there. This one's gonna be a super interesting, easy construction, right? We just have the head, which is literally just that. We have the direction of the shoulders, right? Pelvis, weight-bearing leg, this leg is in contact with the floor, but it's not weight bearing. She has her weight on her right leg at the moment. Have the rib cage right there. I lied. I'm going right into further construction, right? Because I guess I don't know. I'm not really following a whole shtick here. I'm just showing the construction process, I guess, and maybe you can understand what I'm doing by seeing it in action, I guess. It's the back of the rib cage. Skull's actually more like that. Point of the arms. This one comes down. We're not really gonna worry about that one right now. We're just drawing the bones right now that lines up with her hip. This actually looks more like that. We see the bottom half of the pelvis at this angle. Or femur that goes right there. This is like a quick construction. This is where I could actually just leave it and then move on to the next thing, right? Which I might do, but I'd like to further, go in on that, because now that we have that constructed, now we know what we're looking at. There's no further information that could help us look at what we're looking at, right? I know I'm repeating myself a lot here, but let's just, for the fun of it, let's lower the opacity on that. Throw a different color in there. And let's just draw our muscles up a little bit. Now this is a woman, but I'm gonna make her very subtle muscles here look a hell of a lot bigger at the moment, because just so I can map out everything a little bit more easier. All right, you have her erector spinae, which run up that way, which you can't see. You have her lats, which connect underneath to the front of her body, next to her chest. You have rhomboids, which are right there, to allow the humerus to go right there. That runs up to her neck. Her head's turned so you don't see the full connection of where the trapezius meets everything. And also her shoulder blade's kind of in the way there, so you can't fully see what you're looking at, That's okay. It's crazy how some days, drawing something so complicated as this feels so easy, and like I've done it a million times, and then one day I could try again and it's not nearly as fluid, right? Or enjoyable. It makes you feel like you haven't learned anything. So it's really interesting. I feel like drawing can be so complicated sometimes, because I'm drawing this right now. I'm like, ooh, look how good this looks. Look how fast and efficient I'm being. Like, I'm almost impressed with myself. But then another day I can try and it's like not even close. Do you know what I mean? But anyway, um, yeah. But one thing I can say is repetition. The more you do something and the more you have fun with it, that's another thing I've learned is like if I'm not having fun with what I'm learning, what I'm interested in here, I'm gonna have a very hard time sticking with it. I think we attach how good we are at, something, and that allows us to kind of keep going. But for real though, you gotta really enjoy what you're doing here. But one of the beautiful things about that is that the more you do it and the better you get at it, the more enjoyable it becomes because you're good at it. And who doesn't like doing something that they are good at? Nobody. Everyone loves it, right? So, yeah, I'm obviously, the information I'm putting in right now is unnecessary because I'm not, creating this drawing to be anything. I'm just practicing, right? So I put down enough information for you to, as the viewer, or me as the artist, to understand what she's doing. There's no need to do everything that I'm doing right now. I'm just doing it for fun at this point. And I think it's fun to kind of create and look at it that way. Well, I never. Yeah, so if we were to remove the rib cage back there, that's what our figure kind of looks like at the moment. Very kind of stiff, right? Obviously, I made, could definitely make this a lot more, and her, I guess, calves in general, I made a little bit too, yeah, that's way better. Too muscular, which just kind of throws off her figure a little bit. That's okay though. That would literally be enough. Looks a little bit more natural. But let's get rid of that real quick. And let's go back to, I guess, just the construction. That was a good construction. Let's look at this one now. We're at the back quarter view anyway, so let's, I guess, just stick with the harmony of that. Like I said, you know, this gets really enjoyable at one point, so you can kind of get just lost in it. But your brain's still learning, and that's kind of like the beautiful thing. But that's what I like to always start with kind of this graph because it helps me understand what I'm looking at, kind of like the points of the body. If you look at my reference, see how this line is matching up with this line? It's just obviously his right arm is slightly higher than his left from the perspective that we're looking, right? So that gives me a basis, right? His weight bearing leg right now, he has weight on both, but he has more weight on his left leg here, right? At least from what it looks like from my perspective. So that's gonna help me a little bit see what I'm looking at. I love how simple a leg can be sometimes. It's literally just three parts, not including the foot. It's one line, right, that represents the thigh bone, right, or the humerus, or the femur that it's called. And then you have the knee, which kind of points inward. Now, if we're looking at if let's say this was a side view, it would look a lot more like this. Oh no, oops. That would be our leg from a side view. There's kind of, because there's a curvature there. From our quarter view, we're looking a lot more like that, right? Front view would actually be a lot more like, would be like this, kind of curving in, out, that's our knee, right? And then back in, that's a foot. And if, you know, if we're looking at it both ways, it would look a lot like that. That's how the construction would look, because our legs kind of point inward, out, and then, you know, down again. It's an interesting. That's how I represent the bone when I'm looking at it that way. That way, that way, and there we go. And then the arms, I don't know if we're gonna go to really worry about the arms right now, but I think we'll throw it in just for fun. We are over here obviously foreshortened the arm a lot, so it's not gonna be nearly as long as this right here. And we're gonna move it even further because his arm is coming out there. And I wanna do the whole body construction because why not? And that's too long. There we go. So now that we're looking at that, how can we throw in, obviously we have our head in there, right? And we have basically our basic stickman construction, right? But let's throw in our rib cage. It'll be larger on this side because it's a quarter view. You know, let's throw in our hips. Look like that. Kind of tucked in because he's flexing his glutes a little bit there. So, you know, but we still have the construction where if we're looking at the pelvis like a box from a front quarter view, it kind of looks like this, right? That's how it looks kind of from the front. From the side, right? It sits out like this actually, right? That's how it looks from the side. From the back, it looks a lot like this. All right, this is where the hips connect. Sorry, the spine connects to the top, right? If we're looking at it like that, it's the spine. So there we go. That's from the front quarter view. That's the side. That's the back. Now, from this angle that we're looking at, this is going to be a little bit more interesting. It looks like this. Right? So, isn't that interesting? Except, obviously, I made his, it kind of looks like his pants are drooping down. I made the hips way too long. So, I'm just going to correct that real quick because it looks more like this actually. There we go, right? And his body's really stretched at the moment. I'm just trying to exaggerate what we're looking at, but not necessarily, like if I were to be honest, we're looking at his leg being like that long, you know? But that's okay. Let's not try to complicate this too much. But if we're looking at the bones real quick, you have one shoulder blade there, which kind of wraps like that, like a big hug, right? Big couple, I guess. This one, because of our angle, is not going to be so flared out. There we go. Now let's give a better look at our rib cage real quick, which kind of looks like this from this angle, right? Well, actually, we have our spine right here, which connects to the back of our skull. So that's all we're going to use for now. Now, obviously, we have our bones, which look like that, look like this. This one's back that way. Another bone right there. And yeah, these are pretty much what we're looking at in terms of our bone construction here. But we're not going to do more than that. We're just going to leave that there. So now you're looking at, this is what you're looking at in terms of the spine. Sorry, the skeleton, right? Let's throw some muscle on there real quick. I'm going to lower the opacity again so I can see what I'm doing. Change my color so it's fun. The back is so interesting. It's so complicated, but once you get it, it's a lot easier to kind of understand. But you have your trapezius, which is what I'm drawing right now, which kind of looks like a really interesting butterfly, right? But it connects to the top, or I guess behind your collarbone, or to your shoulder. Looks like this, and it connects to the back of your head. Now, in this case, his head is turning to the side. So because our head is turning this way, right, you can't really see it, it's turning this way, the muscles that connect to the back of the head turn with it, right? So that's why it's getting cut off that way a little bit. And that goes all the way down. What next we have is actually our lats, which is really interesting because it kind of, the lats spread a lot like this around the back, right? They connect that way. We're not gonna be able to see much of them on this angle, but there, we got them right there. The muscles on the shoulder blades can definitely be very hard to figure out, I won't lie. And that's probably a weak part in my understanding of references, right? But it's okay, I understand it enough to kind of be able to give a basic understanding of what we're looking at. I'm drawing the rear delt right there on this side, and in this case, the rear delt on this side. Kind of hard to remember where it connects exactly, so I'm not being so particular, right, I guess, with the muscles here, but I believe I'm looking at something like that. More or less. What next? You have a little bit of our lateral deltoid right there that goes above. You see more of that on this side, actually. The lats actually cover the erector spinae, but the erector spinae would kind of go like that, you know, sit right there. Now from this angle, you don't see much of the, I guess, the backside of the obliques, but over here you do see the obliques right there. Yeah. And you actually see a little bit of the chest right there from this side. We have our triceps. See our elbow right there, which jumps right there. We have our flexors, which we're not going to get too into. Just gonna leave it at that, actually. Do that for our hand. Not really worried about our hand. Tricep over here as well, which is kind of like coming underneath too, so that's kind of interesting. But you have your elbow, which kind of disappears and all that. Anyway, simple over there. We're not gonna get too much into arms and fingers and everything. We're just kind of building that up. Actually, we're gonna be able to see the sternocleidomastoids a little bit here, because they're gonna go like that, actually. We're gonna look at his face as so. Yeah. Now let's do legs. His legs are looking a little short, I'm not gonna lie, but I do actually have long legs syndrome, meaning my, you know, legs are always, oh my gosh, way too, way too long, but it's okay. I'm gonna lengthen them up a little bit real quick, just so that we can see our whole figure in proportion. Right, so this is gonna be a little bit more difficult. Let's do this. Let's go in with the gluteus maximus right there, which wraps around to the opposite side of the leg, actually. So there we go. Looking a lot like a butterfly, if you ask me. That's how I like to look at the gluteus maximus. Then you have, this guy's muscular, so he has really big hamstrings. Hamstrings connects. I like to view the hamstring a lot like a tricep. It looks a lot like a tricep in the way that it's situated, I guess. You have a side of his, what's it called? Quads. Over here you see a little bit of the hip flexor, which goes into one side of his hamstring. Right, and then we're not gonna go too, not gonna make this too complicated right there. That's his foot. Right. And you know, the calf kind of looks like a little bit of a hamstring as well. I'm sorry, I'm just blabbering right now. I'm getting in the motion of it all. You can feel free to comment and be like, I learned absolutely nothing. That's perfectly fine. I mean, it's not fine. Well, I guess it is fine that you didn't learn anything, but again, I am not a teacher. I am just someone who's learning, someone who really enjoys this, who eventually would love to teach. But I guess the only way I can do that is if I draw more. I guess you can kind of look and see what we're looking at now from our figure, his back. Now, my figure is actually not nearly as, it's way more stiff than what we're looking at, because if we were to actually strip that down real quick and go back, oops, he has way more curvature in his spine going on. It looks way more like that. And a lot less view. I'm showing way more as if he was curved. He's like standing more like to the side. I'm showing more like this, and way more what's the word I'm looking for? Stiff, you know? But yeah, let's see if we have time for one more in here. I really want to show something with how, there we go, a lot more curvature of the spine here. So let's try to really show the example of the curve there. See that curve we're looking at right there? Pretty crazy. You have the back. She has both her, the base of the skull looks like that, so that we can actually look at it. Just give you some, what this kind of looks like. This is the form we got going on for her back right now. Give you a little example of what you're looking at. And then If we're looking at a more exaggerated form, this is what we're looking at right here. See how much like curve is happening? Anyway. Yeah. But yeah, this is where our spine is right here. Connects that way. Connects like this. Goes up. Right. Actually, a little bit more. Yeah, right there. Kind of has that. Oh, well, actually, that's higher. Kind of has that little area, connects to the spine. So that's what the spine looks like right there. Spine is so interesting, but it looks a lot like this. This is very bent, so it gives you a good understanding, but this is what your spine looks like, right? So you can stretch, the spine can do something really interesting, you know, because it can just really be pushed. Well, a healthy spine at least has a lot of curvature in it, you know, but I can do something like this where I can create very interesting position here. Oops. I think what really helps learning to understand the spine, the figure, and everything is just to really, obviously, the more you practice, the better. But if you understand the spine and how the rib cage, the pelvis, and the head react to that spine's movement, it's way more easy, or it's much easier to create a figure, to understand a figure, to understand what you're looking at, you know? I made that right too high. But yeah. I can even move this up and create what further down the legs would do. You know, you can really stretch body, you know what I mean, by a lot here. But yeah, I hope this helped. I hope this was relaxing. I hope this was something to look at. I really enjoy doing this on my off days where I can just kind of jump back into it. I feel like understanding the basic construction of a figure can literally help you in every other area of your art, because obviously it's just learning how to build up puzzles. It's looking at, oops, every object as just cylinders and shapes, right? And we know that as artists, but we get lost in it so much because we see so many people doing some really incredible things, but it's literally all the basics. Once you understand the basics, you can build on this. Understanding these forms, how they react to movement, and how they move, depending on where the light source is, gives you values on those shapes, right? And it all just continues, and then you can learn color through this and everything else. So it's like, yeah, I think it's a lot of fun. It's really helpful to learn it. And yeah, this was my previous one that I just did. Yeah, I don't know what I'm doing yet. This was fun, but I hope you learned something a little bit through it. I hope you know, broke something down for you. Maybe I can make kind of this into a series as I get better at showcasing this and kind of teaching it, because I understand it from basic level because it's burned into my memory now because I've done it so much, but I don't know how to really communicate it in the most digestible way. So thank you for your patience. Thank you for watching this. If you did, I hope you got something out of it, and I'll see you in the next video.